Hi, everyone. It's Michelle from Connections Resource Center, and I'm here today on International Women's Day with Ashley Nadeau, who is a coordinator at l'EntourElle Pontiac. So, to tell you a little bit about l'EntourElle, it's a community organization that offers help, accommodation, and support to women who are victims of violence or who are in difficulty with or without children. The organization supports women in their personal development in order to regain control over their lives and improve the quality of their lives. Welcome, Ashley.
Good morning. Happy International Women's Day.
Happy International Women's Day. So we're so excited to have you today. And it's a very fitting day to let our viewers and our audience, our Facebook audience, know about your services, because I think they're super important, and everybody needs to know about them, and they might not. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself and about the services that your organization provides?
I sure can. So I'm the coordinator here, the service coordinator at l'EntourElle. I'm born and raised from the Pontiac. I left for college and university, came back, and I've been at l'EntourElle ever since. I have two strong-willed daughters, and so I've been the coordinator here since 2008. We are a shelter. We are a shelter for victims of domestic violence, and for women victim of domestic violence, and or women who are in difficulty. So when we say in difficulty, it's mental health issues, dependencies, and all of those different problematic.
Okay, so yeah, it's not just for domestic violence or shelter. There's all sorts of services that you provide, and we'll get into that a little bit later, a little bit more. We'll dig into it. Let's talk about International Women's Day.
Why not?
Yeah, so the theme for 2022 is Break the Bias. So the world is being called on to imagine and help build a gender equal world free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination. So that's the theme for this year. And what does International Women's Day mean to you and your organization? How do you guys celebrate?
Well, if we do go back a few years, we've been celebrating March 8th with different activities. We had Le Salon de la Femme that we would host with Claude Galipo. We've been doing that for a few years now. And of course, with the pandemic, we haven't for 2 years now, I'm thinking. But we're hopefully be putting that event back on their feet for next year. International Women's Day, what does that mean to us at the shelter? It means celebrating strong, powerful women around us, women who've paved the way already. So we're focused on the positive things that have been accomplished by now. So we focus on that. We focus on I've said it, strong, powerful women who've paved the way before us.
That's awesome. And it's also a great time to reflect on, the work we still have to do.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
yeah.
We've come a long way.
Yes, we have. And for sure, I think it's such an important mark of recognition too, that yes, we've come a long way, and we still have a lot to do to make sure that we don't have this bias in the work world, in society, and
Absolutely. And I also find it very important just to celebrate, women who surround us, our daughters, our mothers, our sisters, our co-workers. We have amazing women that have passed here at l'EntourElle also. So it's just important to celebrate those women also. We think about strong, powerful women who have had an impact, mondialement, but we have women surrounding us who have had positive impacts also, who are equally important to celebrate.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Everybody makes their incredible contributions, right?
Absolutely.
Even if it doesn't have the world impact. But it's definitely in our communities a lot of people to celebrate. So I want to dig into some of the tough questions, right? Because um, you are a women's shelter.
Mm-hmm.
And International Women's Day is a great day to kind of recognize the great need for services like women's shelters,
Mm-hmm.
because there is a lot of still violence against women in our society. So when you hear about abusive relationships, I know that a lot of times, like, the common thing that people might say is like, well, why don't you leave, or why didn't you leave sooner? And I know that a lot of women who are in that situation where maybe they couldn't leave right away feel a lot of guilt and shame about that. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
wondering if you could speak to that, like what kind of barriers women face when they're trying to get out of an abusive situation.
That's a great question. Women are scared. They are in a situation where the partner has. I'll just say it in French. Maybe you can translate in English. C'est une prise de pouvoir. So the partner has that power over the victim, and she is made to believe that she will not survive without the partner, and she will not be able to accomplish great things anymore, and she's scared for her safety, she's scared for her children, she's scared for what lies ahead for me if I leave. I don't know anything other than this relationship, than this toxic relationship. So there's that aspect, and sometimes she has no income, so that can make somebody stay longer also. And when you are stuck in the domestic violence cycle, you are meant to believe that things will get better, and maybe if I wouldn't have done this action or that action, or that had that reaction, my partner wouldn't have gotten mad, or wouldn't have been violent towards myself. So I will correct myself, and it will not happen anymore, and until the next event.
Mm.
So that's a bit of the cycle. And women who are a victim of domestic violence are stuck in that cycle, sadly, and they are meant to believe that things will get better. So sometimes that's why they stay.
Yeah.
And no fear is invading. So that's also a reason why they stay.
Yeah, so a lot of fear and self-blame, and also we can't ignore the economics, of
We
it.
absolutely.
Even if they are employed, financially, it can be very tough to do something like that, right? And
Absolutely.
it's also bringing to light the housing situation, or crisis, we should say, where right now, yeah, my heart goes out to anybody who's been kind of throughout this pandemic in that situation
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Yeah,
And
there
like,
is no housing right now, and that has a direct impact on our services also, because women who come into the shelter, who come in to stay in the shelter, they have to stay longer because there is no they have no access to housing. It's non-existent right now. So it
mhm,
has a direct impact on our services also, sadly. And why do they stay? Also, another reason is sometimes those victims, well, they didn't open up about what they were going through or their situation to their families or to their friends. So they've kept it to themselves. So they are afraid to speak out about it, but because their surroundings aren't aware. So they just don't want to throw that out there, and that the surroundings don't necessarily comprehend what's going on or understand and accept what's going on.
Oh, we have a question here from one of our watchers, our listeners.
Yes.
Have you seen an increase of women using your services since the beginning of the pandemic? That's a great question.
Yes, we've had, yeah, our crisis line has blown up pretty much. We have insane amount of calls for our crisis line. You know, women who aren't necessarily ready to come into the shelter or wanting a external follow up, but just need to talk. They need to vent. They need to validate what's going on in their lives. So we've had a lot more calls on our crisis line for sure.
Oh, and that's good to know that you have a crisis line.
We do.
Yeah.
We do.
So what is the number, and I will type it into the comments.
Absolutely. Our crisis line number is the same number you call, is 819-683-2709.
819-2709. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to put that in the chat because I think that is super useful. Even if somebody is not ready to leave or just needs some support in that kind of way, that's really great that service is there.
And you know, Michelle, that's the same number you call if you need services. So if you need to ask to come into the shelter, that's the number you call. If you need to reach me, that's the number you call. So it's one number, and it's a direct line, and we will direct you through the proper services.
All right. And then Deborah has asked, what are the hours of your crisis line?
24/7.
24/7. That's excellent.
Absolutely. We are, yeah, for sure. There is no time limit for a crisis, so we
right, exactly. This got me thinking how you were talking about, you know, how sometimes the family might not be aware or might not understand, and that taking this step towards leaving can be really scary in that way, like socially as well. So that made me think of the other forms of domestic violence that, you know, so like it's not necessarily black eyes and bruises and physical altercations, but there are different types of violence that maybe are not as well understood by the general population.
So there is the physical violence, which is the violence that we see. But most of the time, the violence that women go through are verbal violence, psychological violence, sexual violence. You know, we've had women say, well, how can it's not sexual violence. We were in a relationship, but you do not give your consent. So it is classified as sexual violence. So there's physical violence, psychological violence, verbal violence, sexual. Have I said that? Yes.
Yeah.
Economical violence. So
financial abuse. Yeah.
Financial abuse. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. And spiritual abuse also. So.
Oh yes. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Tell me more about that one.
Well, spiritual abuse, it's very, you know, it's very big. So, you know, it could be on religion, it could be on just your beliefs, on your way of living on. So, you know, when your partner plays on that, it's considered spiritual violence. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. That's like a new concept for me. I hadn't heard of that necessarily in those words. So, yeah. So thank you for helping raise awareness about all those different forms, you know, of violence, because I do think that also some things are so normalized in our society, or if somebody has grown up in a situation where they're used to seeing these kinds of things, or, you know, that they might not even realize that something is violence. Like you said, for sexual violence, for instance, that women thinking that, well, it's not really rape, let's say, because we're in a relationship. But like, it's to giving consent once does not mean consent forevermore, whether or not you're in a relationship, right?
Absolutely.
So I think like even women who are in those situations might not even realize the extent to which it's affecting them, because they might think, well, I'm not being hit, so it's not really abuse. Um, you know,
Yes, for sure.
it's
And
not
that's
worse, like that kind of mentality.
laugh, but that's how it's perceived. That's
Yeah,
how it's perceived, because physical violence, you can see the bruises, you can see scars, but emotional scars you cannot see those emotional scars, and they stay for life. So those are very, very important and should not be forgotten.
absolutely. Okay, so let's say there's a woman right now listening who's trying to escape an abusive relationship. What We know this is a very dangerous time, and it's an action that needs to have some planning, right? It can be dangerous. So I would like to know what can she do, right? What are some of the safety measures that she can put in place? And
First of all, is having access to our phone number so that she can give us a call to discuss about the situation. If she's not really ready to leave right now, because that does happen, women just want to talk about their situation, validate what they're going through, and
yeah,
see what their options are. So she could give us a call. We make a safety plan with these women. We suggest that they confide into somebody in their support system, somebody that they can trust, so they can give that person a heads up also on their situation and what they're going through. If they have access to a cell phone, always have their cell phone fully charged with them on their person at all times. And just reaching out to us, and we will help from then on.
yeah. So it is important to reach out for these services.
Absolutely.
um yeah. And then I wanted to get more into, so we talked a lot about domestic violence, but you guys do a lot more than just that. So I know that you provide services to vulnerable women, whether or not domestic violence is a thing. And you had mentioned like addictions at the beginning.
Yes.
So I'd like to learn a little bit more about the other services.
Absolutely. And as I said before, we are not specialists in addiction or in mental health. Our specialty is domestic violence. But if you are going through addiction, and sometimes, all these problematic, how do you say problematic in English?
Problems
Yeah,
or
all of these problems,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
sometimes they are directly associated with the domestic violence that they're going through. So they have both un double problématique.
Intersecting problems. Yes, yeah.
Exactly. So, once that we have these women in our services, and if they are going through mental health issues or addiction issues, we will refer them to the proper service. But it's not because they are going through mental health or addiction that they cannot get the services here. We support them and guide them through them getting the proper help they need. So we're not specialists in mental health. We're not specialists in the dependencies, but we will guide them to that service out. Absolutely.
Okay, that's cool. And then you also provide services to the families. So I think this is really a great thing too that some people might not know about, is that they're the children of the women who approach you for help are also eligible for services, right?
Absolutely, yes, for sure. We have a youth worker on here in the shelter, and she works with the kids that come into the shelter, and the kids in the community also. So kids that come into the shelter sometimes are witnessed or victim of the domestic violence also. So our youth worker works with those kids and with these moms who are here in the shelter to address those situations. And we also have an outreach program for youth and women. So I will elaborate a little bit on that if you don't mind. Our youth worker also goes and meets the kids in the community, so in their schools, in different organizations, because they are not coming into the shelter for, or they are not staying into the shelter in the shelter with their moms or whatnot, but they are going through difficulties. They are going through some painful stuff. They have been a victim or witnessed the domestic violence at home. So they also need that support and guidance in their lives. So that's what our youth worker is there for. She does that. She's in the community with the kids in the schools, and she is working here in the shelter with their moms and kids also.
That's amazing. Natalie just said that she didn't realize there were so many services and resources for the whole family. So yeah, that's why we wanted to have you on here today too,
Awesome.
because a super important program. And this is for the Pontiac region, but there are also women's shelters throughout the Outaouais.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes.
So for our Pontiac people, this is this is the place to get services, and I think that pretty much wraps things up. They want to thank you. Oh, are there services or resources the same for all the women's shelters in the Outaouais?
Absolutely. We offer, and we also have a community worker that does prevention and awareness in the community. She is going into the schools to do presentation on healthy and unhealthy relationships, on cyberbullying, on sexting, and all of those issues that our kids are going through right now. So she is actively present in the schools, English and French, throughout the Pontiac, high schools and elementary also. So all the safety on the internet and the safety with phones and whatnot, we are there for that also. And and starting young and showing our kids that what is a healthy relationship, what is an unhealthy relationship. Starting with that base, I'm thinking that we could, it's a good start.
Yeah, that's like super important preventative work, right?
Absolutely.
If they don't have good models of healthy relationships in their lives, they might not have a clue, So yeah, that's an excellent, and the cyberbullying thing, all of that, that's really great to know. I'm really impressed with all your services. I think our audience is as well.
I have a great team of women here who are active in our community.
That's so great. And I hope that a few more people know now about your services and are able to tap into them. Hopefully, and to know that there's a crisis line, and that I think that's really great too, because some people might think that they have to go all in, and might not realize that they can just talk about it.
Absolutely.
And,
as the first step is picking up the phone and giving us a call. That's the first step. And some people think or ask, how do we get services, and how do we start services, or how do we start follow-ups? You just give us a call. That's 819-683-2709, and it starts from there.
That's great. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And happy International Women's Day.
Yes,
you deserve like a big bouquet of flowers or something.
Pardon me?
I said you deserve a big bouquet of flowers or something.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.